Hello, I'm Anthony Hobbs, and this is my review of Battlestar Galactica, episode 23, Attack the Celestra. Oh, but before I start properly, I'd just like to say that Athena isn't in this episode at all. Boxy isn't in it, and neither is Muffet, the robot dog. So, in other words, three regular characters are now not in it at all. We see less and less of them, and they're not at all, no. So I guess, the main, Starbuck and Apollo, the two lead characters, are still part of it, yeah. But I guess the story was evolving, changing, and adding new characters in, yeah. Anyway, I do remembering this episode. Let me explain what I mean. As I said before, I missed a couple of episodes when I was 7, but then I did see this episode when I was 7. So I decided to give Battlestar Galactica another chance, yeah, watch it again. And I really enjoyed this episode, so I decided to go back to watching it on a regular basis again, yeah. And this episode a bit different, yeah. The enemy is not Cylons or evil invaders. No, there's enemies within the fleet. People you can't trust in the fleet itself, yeah. And at the beginning, we're on board the Galactica. We have Adama's personal log, and he's saying how there's lots of optimism everywhere. Yes, we've passed many habitable planets, and there's a theatre now because we have a bigger budget, so we can afford stuff like that. We're not on limited resources like we were in the beginning. So yes, life is much, much better. Lots of food and drink and entertainment for everyone. Yeah, so optimism, yeah. And then Adama, he's presenting a very important ceremony. It's all very extravagant, yes, a military procession. And then we see Commander Cronus. It's Cronus, that's the name of a Greek titan. We have a character called Hermes who works on board the Celestra. And of course Apollo, that's the name of a Greek god. So a lot of Greek names here and there. Anyway, it's a Commander Cronus who used to be a commander of a Battlestar, and he's been given a Medal of Honor for all his good deeds, all the wonderful things he's done for the benefit of the fleet, yes. Presented by Adama himself, so that's good. Starbuck, however, is only half paying attention to the ceremony because he's seen someone that looks vaguely familiar, yes. An ex-girlfriend called Aurora. And he goes, wow, that's Aurora. I must see her. But he can't leave the procession just like that. That would be very impolite, yeah. But then a little later, he bumps into Aurora and says, I thought you were dead. It's wonderful to see you, you know. An ex-girlfriend, someone I was very much in love with. Aurora is not pleased to see Starbuck. Well, Starbuck, that sounds very similar to Buck, like Buck Rogers, another space hero. Anyway, Aurora says, well, you've missed me. You've really missed me and you want us to be reunited. Well, my name is on the list of people, all the registered people. You could have checked that list anytime you wanted, you know. You don't really care about me. And Starbuck, he says, well, on that night back in the day on Caprica, I saw your home bombed and utterly destroyed. So I thought you were dead, so there was no point looking for you. And Aurora is not convinced. No, that's not a good enough reason. You had many chances to check on me and you didn't. So she gives him the cold shoulder, tells him to get lost, yeah. In spite of that, Starbuck wants to go and see it. He has to talk to her, you know, someone he used to be in love with. Of course, there's a complication here. He's supposed to be dedicated to the beautiful blonde Cassiopeia, yeah. Starbuck slept around a lot in his youth, but now he's about 30. Time to do a bit of growing up, you know, be committed to one woman. And Cassiopeia thought he'd finally stopped his philandering, stopped sleeping around, and was dedicated to her. She is not impressed when he wants to go and see Aurora. He assures her it's not cheating. No, he just wants to talk to her, find out how she is. Really, Starbuck, is that all it is? Yeah, so she's very angry at him. And then afterwards, he needs some silly excuse to go on board the spaceship, the Celestra, because he knows that's where Aurora works. So he makes something up. He needs to go to do maintenance checks. Apollo goes with him. So they both get on board their Colonial Vipers and they zoom off. And while that's going on, Sheba says to Cassiopeia, why'd you let him go like that? Tell him no, this is inappropriate. You're supposed to be dedicated to me. And Cassiopeia says, I can't stop him. Oh, don't you care? Says Sheba. And Cassiopeia says, I didn't say I didn't care. I just said I can't stop him. Yeah, he's not a child. I can't order him to do stuff. But she does make it very clear she's not happy with the situation, yeah. Anyway, the two Colonial Vipers go to the Celestra, yeah, and they land. It's very good special effects. We see a life-size Colonial Viper landing in the bay on board the Celestra. And then we see the other Colonial Viper, but half the nose is missing. It's just a piece of a set. Oh, they've cheaped out there a bit. Oh, they do a close-up shot like that so that you're not supposed to notice half the vehicle is missing. Yes, they cheaped out a bit there because they were running out of money at this point, yeah. So we see an entire Viper and then only half of one, yeah. But you're not supposed to notice. Oh, they don't cheap out when it's the laser gun fight. Yes, we actually do see laser beams coming out of laser guns, not just flashing lights. So they didn't cheap out of that bit. Anyway, back to the story. Starbuck wants to see Aurora, but Aurora is part of a rebellion, a rebel force. Yeah, yes, and all the others. And they want to take over the Celestra, but very soon Starbuck and Apollo with their laser guns overpower them, force them to surrender, get on board the shuttle, and decide to leave the Celestra. Yeah, and they take Commander Cronus with them as well. And Aurora and her small rebel force are all tied up in shackles, and off they zoom off. The shuttle is en route to the Galactica, and will then give them a trial and then put them in the prison ship. But before they get there, Starbuck says to Aurora, "Why? Why did you do it? Why did you rebel? You know, everyone's happy all over the fleet. Everyone has wonderful living conditions." And Aurora says, "Maybe you do, but we don't. For the past few months, yes, the people working on the Celestra, they've been treated like slaves. Lots of hard manual labour and just given morsels of food as their payment. You know, we don't have good living conditions. There used to be a time when everyone lived like that. But since then, recently, everyone's been given better food and better wages, but not the Celestra, you know. And yes, that's why the rebels, they hate Commander Cronus. You know, it's all his fault, you know." So Starbuck wants to get the big picture. He says to Cronus, "Is this true? Are they treated badly?" The truth is, Cronus doesn't really know how bad. The commander of the Celestra, Chakra, just tells him that they're all perfectly happy. Well, obviously Chakra is lying. So Cronus himself doesn't really know what their conditions are like. So Starbuck sympathises a bit, and he says to Aurora, "If you had succeeded and taken over and taken Cronus as a hostage, then what? Where would you have gone to?" And Aurora says, "Well, I have my resources. I know there's a lot of habitable planets that have been discovered. We would have gone and lived on one of them." "Well, why do that?" And she says, "To live. To live a decent life. Yes, to have good rewards for all your hard work. There's a planet we've got our eye on. It has lots of food and water, good climate. Yeah, we're sick to death of living like caged animals. We want to live happy lives. Yeah." So Starbuck, he's not sure whether to believe her or not. And then this happens. They've lost all contact with the Celestra. It's not in the place where it was before, and it's gone really, really far away on a different course. And something else, the Celestra is on silent running. Yeah. So that all their lights have gone out and the power sources have gone down, so they can't track it down. And it gets worse, the shuttle is running out of fuel. If they don't do something quickly, they'll be drifting in space and they'll die of starvation. It's then that they realise Commander Cronus isn't really the enemy of the rebels at all. No, Commander Chakra is the enemy. But why do that? Why send them all to their death? So that they can't report anything. They can't report the bad living conditions, yes. So yes, Chakra is the real enemy, and one of the prisoners is an electronics expert, and he knows how to modify the scanner of the shuttle so they can track down the ion trail of the Celestra and track down the ship. And he says, "I can't do that in shackles, you're going to have to let me free." Well, they have to, there's no choice, is there? Otherwise they're all going to die. In other words, the rebels and Starbuck are no longer enemies, no, they're united together to fight the common enemy, yeah. And so they're let all free, they modify the ship so they can track down the Celestra in a nick of time. Yeah, they're cutting it fine, they're on the brink of running out of all their fuel. Get on board the Celestra and they take Hermes, this man that works there, as a prisoner. He shows them where all the other laser guns are kept. And there's a big laser fight, fighting here, there and everywhere, yes. And they seize control and they get Chakra, the commander, as their prisoner. Unfortunately, Commander Cronus is killed during the fighting, yeah. So they managed to get the shuttle, the Celestra, back to the Galactica, yeah. Aurora and the others, yes, they go to prison, but yes, the authorities sympathise with them. There's a reason they rebelled, because such awful living conditions, living like slave work, yeah. So for that reason, they're given a suspended sentence and just do like probation, yeah. And then it's very sad, but there's a funeral now, presented by Adam himself, and he says, yes, Cronus was a wonderful man, a man of honour, a great fighter, did his bit for the community and all that. So inside the same day, poor Cronus is given a Medal of Honour, and then in the same day it's his funeral. Oh, that's very sad. And he's going to be buried at space, yes. Adama says, this is a great hero, We commend him to the cradle of space. Now, I'd just like to say something about the Nelson Mandela effect. What is that? The Nelson Mandela effect is when you remember something a bit differently, yeah. So, for instance, I saw this episode when I was 7, then years later didn't quite remember it right. I remember the coffin that goes into outer space. It goes slowly along the aisle, and then a red lid opens. It goes through the red lid, closes, and then it's blasted off into outer space. No, that image is from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, also which had a funeral in space. So yes, I remembered it a bit differently, a bit wrong. But when I saw it again when I was 17, okay, I'd got those two scenes mixed up, yeah. So yes, a happy ending. There's awareness to the problem, yes, because the people on the Celestra, they couldn't communicate. They couldn't report the bad living conditions because they were never allowed to leave or never allowed to use the communications devices, yes. So in other words, not all is as it seems. So the warriors have a responsibility to inspect all the ships, make sure everyone's been treated fairly. And in spite of, and Starbuck has gone off Aurora. Yes, he doesn't want her anymore. Who you fancy now and who you fancy in the past are two separate things. So he doesn't want Aurora anymore, gone off her, and he realises that Cassiopeia is the proper love of his life. He wants her, yeah. In spite of everything, Cassiopeia forgives him and invites him to go over the theatre with him, which is what they were originally meant to do at the beginning of the episode, yeah. So yes, an interesting episode, raises some more issues, yes. Sometimes the enemy is within your community, yeah. And it's important to don't believe just what you've been told. You have to inspect the spaceships to make sure everyone is as happy as they claim to be, yeah. So yes, an episode of a slightly different adventure, yeah. Okay, thank you for watching. I'm Anthony Hobbs, and I'm never bored.